Albertans, or any jurisdiction for the matter, we're talking about Alberta here, won't do anything for the long-term health of Albertans or get expenses under control. So that analogy is basically, the problem is, like, we don't deal with healthcare at the fundamental root problem. We try and do it all at the top, and shuffle management and this and that, and I'm sure we'll get into more of that later. But to tackle healthcare costs and people's health, you need to start at the basics, start at the bottom-up approach.
Awesome. So in your opinion, tell me, what level should the government be involved in our personal health choices?
Well, that's a very interesting question, especially these days. Obviously there needs to be guidelines for a number of reasons, and I'll probably talk a little bit about that as we go along here. And we want to keep people safe, and there's certain things, policies that should be in place, environmental things, et cetera. They'll keep, the population as a whole, and certainly there's segments of our population that need to be protected in various ways, and we can maybe dig into that. But at the end of the day, I feel everyone has the fundamental rights to be in charge of their own biology, to be in charge of their own body. So, is smoking a good thing? No. From a health point of view, do we allow people to smoke still? Yes, we tax them heavily, but that's their choice, and same goes on with many other things. So I don't know if it's a cop-out answer or not, but we need a framework, and government should provide that framework with consultation with experts and with the citizens as well. But at the end of the day, everyone's in charge of their own biology, and parents are in charge of their children's biology, etc.
Awesome. Can you tell me what makes TIP being the Independence Party's health section in the party program different than anything else that is really out there for policy?
Yeah, so again, goes back to my analogy. So we're really approaching, and it's going to be fundamentally different. Like healthcare in pretty much every society, every country in the world now, and definitely in the Western world, for the last 40, 50 years has been done one way. So now we're not turning it upside down on its head, but as I mentioned earlier, we're going from the bottom up, grassroots, if you will, and really get into what causes people to get sick in the first place. Many people, they don't really understand. I don't think they should, but the big costs, when you look at a line item, the big cost is like, doctor salaries, nurses salaries, XYZ, and that's where they want to tackle it and try and nickel and dime middle management or doctors and fight with them their salaries. We're certainly going on that right now. And yes, that is as a line item, that is the biggest expense. But you have to take a step back and why is that the biggest expense? It's because we're allowing people to get so sick. We are fantastic. The Western medical system is fantastic at acute care. So car accident, you get cancer, etc. We are fantastic at solving those problems. When it comes to chronic issues, chronic disease, we are terrible at it. We let it go on for too long, to the point where then people cost the system so much. If you spend a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, a little bit of money up front, and it's not a problem that gets solved overnight, but over time, those people won't become sick. They won't become your diabetics. They won't become, XYZ, disease, etc. Now, we're always going to have car accidents. We're always going to have things that happen, and we're fantastic at that already. But the chronic stuff, that's the stuff that really costs the system money. But we put no effort into it until somebody gets diagnosed with diabetes or whatever. If we did things at the root cause, lower down when people are younger, they're not even going to get diabetes in the first place, and that's where you're going to see the long-term savings. So our party plan is to hit at some of those root things. And if I could just share, we have basically three main points. I encourage anyone to look at our party policy online for all subjects, but even healthcare. It's quite robust. But if I could boil it down to three simple points, or three main points we really want to hit home here. So it's improve access to preventative healthcare and mental health treatments, partnering with certified health and wellness specialists to keep Albertans healthy. Number two, end the war on doctors and nurses. Rebuild the damaged professional relationships and encourage cooperation between our healthcare providers and government. And number three, promote the modernization of our healthcare sector with state-of-the-art facilities, treatments, technologies, administrative policies, and processes. There are many things that are going on in other jurisdictions in the world, and that's kind of what I do, is research that, that we're not doing here in Alberta. It's not that we don't have good hospitals or we have, great cancer treatment centers and this type of equipment. That's part of it. There's always better things you can get, and we can have more of them. But there's also technologies that we're not using. There's treatments we're not even using. It's standard of care in other places, but we're not doing it here. And I think the question has to be asked, why is that? That's number one. And then there's just things we're not doing, especially from a mental health point of view. That's really been lacking in many places in North America, certainly in Alberta. There's new treatments that are coming out, and we want to explore those things, and we'll see what works and what doesn't. There's fantastic research being done in other places in the world, and it's just, it's pretty much proven now, but we're not implementing it here. So that's part of it. We just want to, do some of those things, make things more digitized, make things more efficient. So there's a lot of bureaucracy and paper pushing and stuff like that probably be reduced by just making things a little more streamlined, a little more using technology. If anything, in the last year we've all learned, right? We're all on Zoom calls and whatever. We need to embrace technology, and we've had to do it quickly in the last year, and that goes to the the healthcare system as well. Not that they're not doing it, but I think there's more opportunity for that.
Awesome, thank you. So, can you explain some of the benefits then of because obviously with this type of approach, there's obviously some benefits to a blended healthcare system in that approach. So can you explain the benefits of that to people?
Sure. Now, the one misconception a lot of people have is, a lot of people say, well, I don't take my, healthcare away, or, we don't want privatized healthcare, et cetera. Reality check, people, we already have a dual system. We already have a private system here in Alberta. I don't need to get in my story unless somebody wants to ask me, but I went through some health challenges, about 7, 8 years ago now. Unfortunately, the medical system in Alberta did me no favors. Excuse me. I had to go my own route, an alternative route, if you will. I paid out of pocket. I paid multi-thousands of dollars to heal my conditions, and there's already private clinics happening. If you want to get an MRI done, something that I did, it was a 6-month wait, or if I told them I was going to pay out of pocket, I could, essentially go the next day. So we already have this, so no one should be surprised. That's number one, that we already have private healthcare. There's a lot of private clinics that, the doctors are regulated by the AMA, but they don't collect any money from AHS. They run private clinics, and obviously they have to cover their costs and et cetera. So we shouldn't be scared of this. I think there's an opportunity in some capacities to increase that so that people aren't having such long wait times. I don't want to make it a system where, some people might compare, well, we don't want a U.S. system, and there's a lot of good things about the U.S. system. There's a lot of things that we wouldn't want to adopt. We're certainly not trying to say that if somebody shows up, at the hospital, bleeding to death, that we're going to check their insurance or anything like that, or are they a citizen or something like that before they get treated. That's not what we're saying. But there is opportunity for people to have other avenues. And again, some of those treatments that maybe, are the standard of care in other jurisdictions that we want to adopt here, maybe the pool is small for those people. So let's encourage some doctors to start their own facility or their own clinic that, specializes in that, and we can get people to use treatments they would love to use. I'll just speak for myself personally, and I have, a lot of friends that are in the same boat who would love to have, this certain procedure or this type of clinic be available, but, they have to go to Germany or the U.S. or, even Ontario is much farther ahead of Alberta in this regard. So just have the option. That doesn't mean the taxpayer should not need to pay for it, but at least have the option here so that we're not sending money, to California or Mexico or something to get certain procedures or things done. So I think there's an opportunity to have increase the amount of, maintain what we all think of as, public health care, but also increase the private sector to actually enhance the, what we can offer and benefit the entire population.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even for me, myself personally, like I have dealt with, like, just like, female problems, and, like it's really hard here in our current system. Like for myself personally, my own personal experience has been, you don't get to just phone up a specialist and go see a specialist. All specialists you have to see through the referral of a doctor. And I think, in a system like this, it would really open, like open the doors to someone like me, who I already know, kind of have an idea of what my problems are, but every time I need to go and see a specialist, if it's been longer than 6 months since the last time I saw the specialist, I have to go back to the doctor, which it just seems like a waste of time and a waste of resources for AHS, right? So I don't know. That's just my own personal take on it.
Yeah, I'll just use one example. This is something I went through a number of years ago. When I was a kid, I used to get sick all the time. That was a small part of my journey I alluded to earlier. So I can remember I was a kid, and my mom, via the family doctor, finally got me to see a specialist and to get allergy testing done. And I don't remember. I was young. I don't remember how long I had to wait. So fast forward a number of years to about 8 years ago, I really wanted to look into that again, and I made some changes, and I was getting healthier. I had resolved some of my chronic health issues, so I kind of wanted to get that checked out again. And it was like a 9-month wait in Alberta. This is a couple years ago, but a 9-month wait to see an allergist. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, an allergy specialist. That's just crazy. And like, why? It's like, well, there's only so many. So in certain areas, we don't even have enough of those specialists here. So I think if that's one opportunity we have. If the demand is there, why are people making citizens wait 6, 8, 9, a year even to see a specialist? We can encourage them, whether it's through a combination of private and public, to have more of those types of specialists, then we can reduce the wait time. I fluke out in that. I actually had to change my appointment, knowing that I was like, oh gosh, I'm just pushing my date out even further. And the day I called, like, we just had a cancellation. Can you come in tomorrow? And it was just total timing. Like, I was top of mind because they literally hung up the phone. So I was able to get in within like 3 months instead of 9.
Right.
But it's just there's a lot of opportunity to make the system better.
Absolutely. So even outside of COVID times, wait times, like we were just talking, and access to doctors has been difficult in the current system, and we were just talking about that. What do you think we can do to improve that?
Well, I think a couple things, and it goes back to what I said earlier. There's so many ways to answer this. Number one, I think a lot of people who there's a lot of things. So number one, we can dwell on more. I'll just go very high level here. Some seniors, the way we treat our seniors in this province is not always the best. That goes across the board in Western cultures. It's a little bit different in Asia for sure. Sometimes seniors, they just go to the doctor because, I'm not saying they don't have issues or have legitimate health concerns, but sometimes they just go because they're lonely and they want to talk to someone, and that can eat up bandwidth. There's other people who, because they don't have the knowledge, or we didn't, as a society, we didn't educate them, they go to the doctors for every little thing when you don't really need to go. I haven't been to the exception of, wanting to go get lab testing done for specific reasons. I haven't been to the doctor ever since I got healthy. I haven't been sick or gone to the doctors in like six or 7 years. So, I don't go for every little thing. Some people do that. The other thing is, and you have doctors you have to kind of lump into. I say, and this is an oversimplification. I know that, but you almost have to lump doctors into kind of 2 categories. So your specialists, your surgeons, etc., and then your GPs, your general practitioners, right? They have to know a little about a lot. Right, specialists they know a very narrow scope, but they know it deep. They know it really well. General practitioners have to know a little bit, but a very breadth of knowledge. So I think, again, if you go back to educating people earlier and some of the policy changes, and I'll touch on that in just a second here, people won't need to see the doctor as much. There won't be such a wait time. Now, right away people are going to say, oh, that means like you're cutting doctors, or we won't have as many doctors. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying the system will be more efficient, and people won't have to wait. So when they have legitimate things that they need to see either specialist or their GP, they can get in much sooner. Like even myself now, if I wanted to see my GP, it's like, I guess it depends on time of year and whatnot, but I'm looking at least 10 days to 2 weeks, and that's not something serious, right? And I don't, rush to emergency for the littlest things. But I want to tie it back to what I said at the beginning about, that analogy. We need to change a few things, and I'll touch on here. That again starts at the bottom. Starts with kids going through school. We need to change the education around nutrition. We have terrible nutrition guidelines, and there's no one size fits all for anyone. I'll just put that perfectly clear right up front. But what we have for guidelines right now, anyone can do their own research, but it's really promoted by special interest groups, and that's what we're going with, and that's what various the registered dietitians have to follow that. If you have any sort of school lunch programs, have to follow that. What people in prison or in jails, have to follow that, and then even to a degree in senior care, they have to follow that. So basically, by changing one document, or at least being more flexible around that document, you've changed nutrition, and I believe nutrition is the start, is the foundation of health. So if we can change that right off the get-go, get kids to understand eating habits better, that makes their parents understand eating habits better, and then the transcend, again, it's not a flick the switch and
right.
Everyone's healthy next year. This is I'll be honest, it's a 5, 10, 15, 20-year process to get a whole generation to be healthier. So then they're not a tax, they're not a burden, on the healthcare system down the road with diabetes or whatever. So that was a bit of a rambly answer. Did I
you did answer it. That was actually a really great answer. And actually, I guess in that, like I said, you headed the committee that came up with our healthcare policy in our party program. So can you explain a little bit about the research, or how you did the research to support some of the policies that you came up with?
Sure. Two things. One, besides, there's a group of us, so we all have our broader skills and expertise and work experience with us. I'm part of what I do is meta research. So I do research on research. So I do a lot of, particularly in the health field, not all about nutrition, but in the health field in general. So and I've been doing this for years, so I have a good idea of what's going on in other jurisdictions. I do speeches on it. I do talks on that sort of thing. So I have a good idea. But also what I ended up doing is I reached out to my network of, doctors and physiotherapists and chiropractors, massage therapists, nutritionists, functional medicine doctors, like a whole gamut. I ran a whole bunch of interviews and just said, what do you see as a problem in healthcare in Alberta? And, where would you make changes, or where would your naturopath is another one I interviewed, where would you or your college or your association, where would they like to see changes to healthcare, and what do you think is the biggest impact? And, it all, really everyone, there's a few little things like, oh, we'd like to see this, or we'd like to be able to bill for that, or have the same rights as this other group. And there was some of that, but really all across the board, it came down to people need to eat right, they need to learn lifestyle factors, et cetera. And that's part of why our policy our policy go forward is to, again, the doctors, they'll be the first to admit this. And I've interviewed many doctors. I've listened to podcasts of doctors interviewed. I have doctors who are friends. They'll be the first to say they don't really learn anything about nutrition. It's a very small, 1 hour for the whole medical school to 4 days. It's very small. So they defer to the registered dietitians. And again, there's many, many great registered dietitians, but they're handcuffed by the policy, by the Canada Food Guide that we have. Now, many of them skirt around that, which is fantastic, and actually try and really help their patients and their clients. But, that's not really what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be following this guide. So by, changing the guide up, and then, doctors are very, very busy. They're, they're good at what they do, but they're not sleep experts, and they're certainly specialists for sleep. But again, we already established we don't have enough of those, and they're not lifestyle. They're not movement specialists. They're not nutrition specialists. So we like to embed in the system certified specialists in these various fields who can then help people. If I go to my GP now and say, or someone went to their GP and said, look, they have cholesterol's up and they're 20 pounds overweight or 30, whatever, it doesn't matter, I'm not sleeping well. Okay, well, go see this registered dietitian, or here's some pills for sleeping. We can try and get you in maybe at the sleep clinic if this persists. If this come back in 6 months, if this is the same case, we can maybe try and get you on the wait list. And then we already talked about that. That might take 9 months to get in. But what if there's okay, well, why don't we book an appointment for you next week with our lifestyle specialist, our health specialist, certified, of course, who then can talk about, they can't prescribe drugs or anything like that, right? But they can say, oh, how are you sleeping? Oh, okay, well, here's some tips on how to sleep better. Did you know this? Or, nutrition. Okay, well, here, you can do this. Or, exercise. Okay, well, here's some simple exercises that match you, you, the individual, and really individualized care. People hear the term personalized medicine, personalized care. That's a whole other topic altogether. We're not there yet. We're getting there, but we're not there yet. But we try to, let's move this a little bit along here by really helping people so that when they go to a clinic, they can see the GP, they can see, maybe a registered dietitian is there or not, or but you see one of these coaches who can help them with lifestyle factors. Because a lot of the biggest thing is accountability. You're going to see your doctor, unless it's something serious, and of course you have to see your doctor, but, just for general things like, blood pressure is a little bit high, it's getting up there, blood sugar levels getting a bit high, you're not quite diabetic, you should probably lose weight and move more. Okay, that, exercise more and eat less, that's 1970s is calling, they like their science back. That's so outdated now, we've proven, but we still have that model, we're still using that model. And the doctors will be the first to admit they don't really, some doctors knew they do take extra courses or personal interest, but that's not the standard. But if we embed, specialists in the clinic or in the hospital who are like, hey, you're on the cusp, you need to make changes now. But people don't make changes on their own unless they're really motivated. They need to either be diagnosed with something and then maybe they want to make the change. And plenty of people don't. But if they said, here is someone you can talk to, and you can have a follow-up every 2 weeks, then you're not burdening the doctor with that follow-up every 2 weeks or 6 months, and then a whole 6 months goes by before you know if there's been any change or any difference. So we'd like to embed that. So embed that type of role in the system, and then as well stripping down and reworking the food guide to make it a little bit more inclusive of all type of nutritional needs, and everyone has got, as I mentioned earlier, different type of needs. And then the other big piece too, or I get not necessarily a big piece, but change we like to make, for the people who really actually want to do the right thing, they're reading labels. They're out there like comparing products and like how much fat, how much calories and stuff. Those labels are just a bunch of garbage. They're so inaccurate because we've allowed them. The policy, we've allowed, the food companies to, lobby to how those should be written. They don't make any sense whatsoever. Like, oh, this only has 100 calories, and then the serving size is like something you don't even understand. Or maybe they'll be like, oh, 3 chips. I'm like, okay, who eats 3 chips?
Yeah.
Like, it should be like, this is the whole bag, is how much. Then it's like, oh, it's only 100 calories. Oh, it's 5,000 calories if you eat the whole bag, because some people will eat the whole bag, or whatever the case may be.
I'll eat the whole bag.
You get my point, right? And the other things too is there's so many things that don't even need to be labeled.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could get it. That could be, if somebody wants to ask a question on that, I'll give my opinion on that. But so these are some of the fundamental things that we're going to, right at the root cause, start from the beginning. Again, it will take some time, but if we can get the kids, and then their parents start changing habits, and by the time those kids, are in their 30s and 40s, they're not going to be pre-diabetic. They're not going to have hypertension and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, I just feel like, because I was a child of the 80s, I guess. I guess that's the best way to put it is, that's really the generation where you basically went into 2-income families, right? So parents were busy, not as much time, not as much home cooking. and it would be great if parents, I mean, I'm a parent, I have two grown boys, and it would have been great to have a little bit of guidance, outside of the food guide, because like you said, it's not really like a one size fits all program. Like every body has different requirements that it needs, and
every body and every stage of life as well.
Yeah,
no, that
too.
High metabolism, they can handle more, carbs and sugar, right? Sugars, carbs, they're synonymous with each other. Other people have different things. As you get into, the elderly people, they have different needs, and some people have, want to, for ethical or religious reasons, need to be vegan or vegetarian, and like, so we gotta, accommodate people. But 12, my generation, I was born late 70s, so I'm kind of a kid of the 80s too. My generation, our generation, was the first generation where it was like packaged cereal, Eggos,
Fruit Loops,
all these convenience, fast things. Because yes, bit of a generalization, but the mother went into the workforce or whatever, or we were latchkey kids. We had to come home and fend for ourselves till mom and dad came home for supper and making a snack granola bars and all these things. We're the first generation of that, and now we're in our 40s and 50s, and is there any wonder we have like huge levels of diabetes has like gone up, and cholesterol and all these things have gone up? It's like, so it kind of goes back to like,
yeah.
Well, what happened in the early 70s? We could certainly talk about that. What happened there? How did things change all of a sudden?
No, exactly. And I mean, like I said, and it is like, like, I don't know, like we have some really good things in the current system, like, but it, like as a parent, like you're saying, like it would be nice to have a little bit more guidance, especially when you were a young parent. Because, when I was a young parent, there was like, you got the health nurse that came to see you, which was great. Like, you'd have your baby, and about a week or two later, the health nurse would stop by and make sure you were okay physically, and, that you were dealing and coping okay, so that you didn't have to go to the doctor, per se. But, they were more checking on, which is good, they were checking on the baby. But it would be nice if we had a system that allowed, not just for things like that, but allowed for, kind of like the coaching, for nutrition and for those young parents, and to be that a regular thing, if people choose to have that, I mean, if people choose to have that type of coaching, it would be nice if it was something that was available, because it would probably cost less on the system in the long run to have these parents learn, proper nutrition and proper exercise and proper lifestyle choices when these children are young, as opposed to waiting till there's health problems already developed because of our lack of knowledge.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick stat here. Just what you said, just sort of reminding me of it. This is a U.S. stat. It's a little bit easier to get stats out of the U.S. than out of Canada, but a middle-aged or 60-year-old like diabetic. So these might not be quite translatable. Again, different systems, U.S. and here, but it's basically like cost the system, or like healthcare, health insurance, like $60,000 a year, a diabetic. Well, what if we spent like, I don't know, a couple $100, maybe $1,000 for like this coaching, or revamping this, the nutritional guidelines, heck, even maybe, and I'm not saying this is part of the party program, but I'm just talking out loud here. Heck, what if we even like provided, some sort of like, you get a free box of vegetables like delivered to your house like once a month or something like that. That minuscule cost is going to save so much money down the road, unfortunately, as a society in general, and certainly government has a short attention span. It's at most 4 years. It's usually only 2, right? As soon as you get elected, you're working on the next election, right? Basically. I'm fortunate enough, I guess, or maybe burdened, I don't know, it depends how you look at it, but I think long term, I think 60 years out. I plan to live for another 60 years, so I have to think long term in all facets of my life, but we don't think that way. So if we spend, I guess the point I'm trying to make is we spend a little bit of money now when kids were, Timmy's getting a little chubby, like, let's intervene now. What's the problem? Is he not sleeping? Maybe there's trauma at home? Like, there's so many things that could be, why Timmy's getting chubby, but if we handle it now, then Timmy's not obese at 18 years old like I was when I was 18 years old. I was morbidly obese when I was 18. Luckily, I turned my life around, but many people don't. And then by 30 and 40, they're a drain on the healthcare system. That's the big costs. It's those type of people. It's not somebody who gets in a car accident. Yes, that costs a lot of money, saving someone's life and surgeries and that sort of thing. But the big real cost is the cost of treating these chronic diseases. And I just keep using diabetes as an example because I have that in my family. But anyway.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you very much. I mean, this is I think this is really good information for anybody, and I obviously super support our party's stance on on the healthcare policy that you and your committee came up with, and I mean, so super appreciative of everything that you did.
Can I mention one thing?
Yes.
Sorry, I meant to say it and then I got off on another tangent, which I sometimes do. Just going back to the food labeling, there are so many things that, because of lobbying, that do not need to be on the label. All sorts of chemicals. It's almost criminal. I'll just say it. It's almost criminal. I think anything that you are going to ingest should be on the label. Even if it's, poisonous to rats, but somehow somebody decided it's not poisonous to humans, it should still be on the label. You should be able to make your own choice. But if it's not on the label, you don't even know that it's there. And I can give countless examples on that. But anyway, that was something I wanted to say, and
I'm glad you did, because actually that wasn't even something I was aware of. And I think I'm getting, and I would say in the last 5 years of my life, I've been getting more and more conscious about my health because I'm in my 40s, and I'm I just want to start fixing things now because I didn't, really have good habits when I was young, right? So, trying to develop those now and then trying to pass them on even now to my adult children, it's so, I mean, it's good. Anything that you can give us for knowledge, I think is great. And like I said, I just wanted to again, thank you so much for helping us develop that health policy, because when I read it the first time, when it came out in January, I was it actually made me excited, and hopeful that, if we have that chance in government and can make these changes, I mean, we are going to have, such a, I don't know, well, obviously a healthier generation of people coming up, and it just gives a lot of hope on what we can do, and the freedom, the personal freedom we're going to have with our own bodies. And I just, like I said, I just really appreciate the work that you put into that, because it's not easy coming up with these ideas and doing all the research, and I mean, you had to talk to a lot of people, and like I said, I just think you did an amazing job, and I just want to say thank you again.
Well, I appreciate that. One thing I want to say, and I'm not trying to, people in the medical system, our doctors, our nurses, etc., for the most part, the vast majority of them got into the field because they truly wanted to help people. Will there be some changes, to the status quo with our policy? Yes, there will be. Are we looking at mass layoffs and cutbacks? No, quite the opposite. But what I would say, and the point I want to make, is that if anybody, I think, challenges somebody can maybe challenge the execution and how we would go about it. But if anybody challenges the fundamental idea of what we're trying to put forward, they either A, don't understand. They either didn't read it. 2, they completely don't understand health anyway, at all. Or 3, special interests will make them, disagree with us. So I just don't see how anyone who truly cares about the health and well-being of other people can't see, at least from a fundamental level, what we're trying to achieve here. Mm-hmm. You can bash us on execution and timing and all that, because it hasn't been done anywhere in the world before. We'll be trailblazing here. So, okay, I can accept that criticism. But if you think these policies won't, if implemented correctly, won't actually help people, then you either don't understand or you don't care for some reason or another. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have, because we have our little online meetings every month and our board of directors meetings, and I just have to ask, what's with the yellow glasses?
Oh, you're not the first person to ask. So, as you sort of alluded to, what I do for a living, and as I just alluded to a moment ago, I plan to be a centenarian. I plan to live to be over 100. And that's not what most people think of. Maybe, unfortunately enough, your grandma or maybe your parents, the last, few years was in a home, or Alzheimer's, and I have Alzheimer's in my family, and dementia in my wife's family, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about healthy, physically, spiritually, mentally, cognitively, right till the end of days. That's what I'm personally going for. So, again, it goes back to my 60-year time horizon. So how does that relate to my glasses? So, as I was doing a number of years ago research about, all this, we're all in front of screens all the time, right? Even when I was a kid, it's so much more. Our kids are, like my kids, I got young kids, are like, even at school, they're in front of screens. And certainly if they're homeschooling or what have you. I certainly played enough video games and stuff when I was, a kid growing up as well. But, it's become even more common, just in the last 20 years, and every year it just gets more and more. We're spending more and more time on our screens. So I started doing some research and started hearing from other, researchers and doctors and that sort of thing about macular degeneration. So I started looking into it, and I was like, geez, if I'm going to live for another, this is a couple of years ago, if I'm going to live another 60-something plus years left, having a healthy body and a healthy mind, is great, but if I can't see, if I don't have my eyes, that's really going to suck. So, I started looking at it, and then the next time I went to go see my eye doctor, I was like, hey, I'm hearing all this stuff about blue light and the negative effects, not to mention the sleep effects of blue light. That's something I'll come back to in a second, but all this about macular degeneration, I've seen some studies where it's just super increasing, and they think it's going to just hockey stick with the amount of, people with macular degeneration, et cetera. I'm like, is this for real or what? And my eye doctor's like, oh, yeah, I totally is. And she's like, I wear contacts in the office. When I go home, I put on my blue light blocking glasses. I was like, oh, do you guys sell them here? She said, yeah, we have a couple pairs. And then she goes, oh, hold on a second. She goes out and gets somebody else from the front desk. Oh, here's hers. Look at hers. And then but I pretty much found out, everyone who works at the eye doctors has blue light blocking glasses. Every single one. They're either wearing them all the time, or maybe if they wear contacts, they don't quite have blue light blocking contacts yet, although I hear it's coming. They go home and put on their blue light blocking glasses. So I was like, okay, you have a huge opportunity. Why are you not promoting this? It's like, people don't really care or whatever. We have them. If somebody asks, they're here and whatever. So I started with just a normal pair. So they're clear lenses, but they filter most of the blue light out. So I wear those all the time when I'm in front of screens and whatnot. And then a couple of years ago, so not only that, but so these are amber color, and I also have a red pair. So as the sun goes down, naturally, right, we haven't evolved that much. We're still biologically the same, I believe, what many people believe, the same creatures from, 300 years ago, right? Before we had lights and computers and all that sort of thing. Our biology hasn't changed as a species enough yet. So it's very unnatural, all this blue light. So as the sun's starting to go down, beautiful sunsets, everyone's aware of that. The sun goes from blues and greens to more of these red and orange and yellow tinges. So whenever I'm doing anything at night, I wear glasses. So I always have blue light blocking glasses on, unless it's first thing in the morning and I'm outside and I want to get natural blue light into my eyes from the sun, natural. But otherwise, I'm always wearing blue light blocking glasses, and then in the evening I wear my amber ones, and then as it gets even later, the last 45 minutes to an hour of bed, I'll wear my red ones, and those are actually kind of hard to see, so I can't be walking around the house too much. They're super dark. So these are my kind of in-between intermediate evening glasses. So we're recording this. Somebody might be watching this later on replay, but we're recording this in the evening, so hence the yellow blue light blocking glasses.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Like that. I was always curious, and I have seen other people wearing, not very many, but I have seen a few other people wearing them, especially people that do a lot of what do you call it, podcasts and stuff like that. I've seen a couple guys that wear them all the time.
It's becoming more and more popular. So.
Yeah. No, I think.
If I can throw one other thing in, my kids just have the clear ones, but yeah, probably about 2 years ago, my kids, when they're, I don't force them to wear it. They don't need glasses otherwise, but I have non-prescription blue light blocking glasses for my kids when they're at home. I don't make them wear them to school, even though there's a ton of screens at school, or if they go to their cousin's house or something like that. But when they're at home and they're in front of a screen, they have to wear the blue light blocking glasses. I got to protect their eyes starting now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get myself a pair. I just had eye surgery 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm like, if they're going to help me from never needing at least, by going back to being nearsighted again, then why not, right? I'm gonna have to look for a pair now. Now you're making me spend money. No, just kidding.
So, well, we can talk offline. I got these ones online, pretty good price.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
And these are in prescription. So
awesome. Well, yeah, that's all I have for questions for you today. So if there's anyone online that has any questions, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to ask a question. And if we don't get any questions, I guess we can say goodnight. But yeah, I'll just give people a few minutes. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about while people are trying to come up with questions. But
well, one thing I'd say, we can vamp for a little bit here, but I'd certainly say if somebody catches this on the replay and you do have a question, put it in the comments or what have you, or if you see it on Facebook or on YouTube or whatever. And I'll try my best for the next little bit to follow up and check in, every couple of days or something, and try to answer any questions that you might have, for sure. And certainly I'm not that hard to find if somebody wanted to reach out to me about either the party policy, the health plan, or anything that I went off on a tangent on, or something wanted to know more about. What's this blue light blocking glasses about? Tell me more. Hey, reach out. Happy to talk to you. So
awesome. And so also to if anyone wishes, you can always get a hold of us through the website. There's a place on there to contact us, and it'll go to our comms at ab-independence.com email address anyway. But yeah, always feel free to go through the website as well if you can't find the post or whatever, and definitely those messages will make it back to Deepak if anyone has a question and puts it through that route as well. So
I guess another thing I would say too, and I don't want to speak for the party, the board of the party, but I've heard this enough times, I feel confident I can say this. We have our party policy out. That doesn't mean it's set in stone if in any topic, health or otherwise. So if anybody wants to, has ideas, wants to get involved, or just thinks we missed something and we need to look at something else, I think if I'm not overstepping my boundaries,
nope, not at all.
Party,
keep going.
I think just reach out to the email address that Vicky just provided, or via social media or whatever, and we're happy. We're a small but feisty party, and we need people, we need volunteers, and we need ideas. And if you want to get involved, by all means, or if you think we missed something, let us know. And I'll just speak on health, and certainly with all the other policies that I had the fortune of working on, they were bigger documents. There's obviously a lot of people have different inputs and different ideas, and we have to whittle it down to the best ideas that everyone could agree on, and that sort of thing. So there might be something you're passionate about on any topic, health or otherwise, that you don't see in the party policy, and we might have considered it and decided it wasn't the way we wanted to go, or maybe we did consider it. So please, looking for feedback.
Yeah, always.
We have to make Alberta the greatest country in the world. Exactly.
I'm with you 100%. Well, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions today, so that's quite okay. So I guess for now, I'll say goodnight. I'll let you say goodnight, Deepak, and then we'll sign off, and we'll see everybody next month. I believe the last Thursday of the month next month is May 29th, so that will be our next scheduled town hall. And I believe we're interviewing Peter Downing at the next town hall, so feel free to join us for that. And with that, I will say goodbye.
Thank you, Vicki, and to the party. I appreciate the platform today. So,
all right. Well, we thank you too for all of your input and volunteering and the hard work that you do. So, again, good night, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye, everyone.